It was reprehensible for me, for this president to stand in front of Americans and to say that $500 billion, $500 million plus, is not going to be on the table, and we're just going to have to work our way through it, putting young men and women's life at jeopardy. And I will tell you, as a commander-in-chief, as an American citizen, that is totally and absolutely irresponsible. Even his own Secretary of Defense said it was irresponsible. As a matter of fact, if Leon Panetta is an honorable man, he should resign and protest.
That was Rick Perry criticizing President Obama over the failure of the Congressional Supercommittee on Deficit Reduction, which has set off a $1.2 trillion in triggered spending cuts that will, or we should say might, go into effect on January 1st, 2013. Half of those spending cuts, roughly half, will come from defense. Joining me now are General Wesley Clark, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander and former presidential candidate, and Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, former Chief of Staff to the Secretary of State, Colin Powell. General Clark, this was the foreign policy debate tonight. What did you hear that gave you any confidence that one of these candidates could actually handle the job of Commander-in-Chief?
Well, I thought it was a good debate. I thought it was well moderated. I thought each of the candidates tried to demonstrate command of the facts and an appreciation for some of the nuances of the issue. So I thought it was a measurable step way up the ladder beyond what I've seen in the past. That having been said, there were the sort of ritual, empty rhetoric hits at our president. What I saw was it was pretty hard for the candidates to get beyond the very centrist, strong, robust foreign policy that the president's put in place. They had a pretty tough time doing it, and it took some ancillary issues like immigration to show some extreme positions out there. Beyond that, I think the president could mostly count on strong support from these Republican contenders.
Let's listen to Mitt Romney and John Huntsman talking about Afghanistan.
I stand with the commanders in this regard and have no information that suggests that pulling our troops out faster than that would do anything but put at great peril the extraordinary sacrifice that's been made. This is not time for America to cut and run. We have been in for 10 years. We are winding down. The Afghan troops are picking up the capacity to secure their country, and the mission is pretty straightforward.
But at the end of the day, the President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief. Commander-in-Chief. Of course you're going to listen to the generals. But I also remember when people listened to the generals in 1967, and we heard a certain course of action in Southeast Asia didn't serve our interests very well.
Lawrence Wilkerson, how do you referee that one?
Let me say, Lawrence, first of all, echoing General Clark, that previous Republican debates, and it's my party, I've been either chilled to the bone or stunned at the depths to which my party has sunk. This debate was different. This debate was more sober, more reasonable. This issue that you've just brought up, though, is one that concerns me deeply because although they seem to understand that the real problem facing this country, national security problem, spiritual problem, every problem you can conceive of is connected to this, is the fact that we are virtually bankrupt. By 2021, the interest payments on our debt will equal the defense budget. So talking about all these things, Iran, Afghanistan, Newt Gingrich wants to invade Pakistan, apparently. Talking about more wars, talking about big defenses, and talking about a robust and professional and well-funded military, all depends on this economic strength. And so the rhetoric of defense, the rhetoric of national security is attacked immediately by the fact that they don't seem to have a good plan, don't seem to be able to talk about the plan they have for restoring the American economy. I just don't see it, and that worries me more than anything else.
General Clark, you've been out there on the presidential trail. As a practical matter in presidential politics, what is the likelihood that the Republican nominee will spend a lot of time on foreign policy, on defense issues, going after the president who got Osama bin Laden?
Yeah. Well, they would like to, because this has traditionally been an area of strength. And so the old canards are Democrats are soft on security. And you heard some of that empty rhetoric tonight, but the truth is the president is carrying the majority support of the American people on national security. So it's not a very good line of attack for the Republican Party. Our president has a good, strong national security policy.
Colonel Wilkerson, it's hard to predict where presidential campaigns go, and if we find ourselves a year from now in the thick of a foreign policy or defense policy debate between the parties, do you think this president will be working to his strength in that kind of debate?
Are you talking about President Obama?
Yes.
Yes. The only person I listened to tonight that I thought would resonate with me in the national security area was John Huntsman. I thought his answers were carefully articulated. I thought they reflected some deep thought about the issues. And I was particularly struck with his not willing to jump on the national security wagon instantly. I agree with General Clark that all of them are going to have an extremely difficult time on this issue, foreign policy or the bigger issue of national security, against President Obama, because his record is not that bad. His record is pretty darn good. And I think that if Newt Gingrich winds up being the candidate, I think the Obama camp is probably going to be very, very happy, because I think Newt Gingrich is very beatable.
General Clark, is there anything that you would recommend to the White House to strengthen President Obama as he goes into a re-election campaign where he will be at some point questioned on defense policy and foreign policy?
Well, first of all, I'd keep any of my recommendations private to the White House. But I would say this. One of the issues that didn't really come out tonight was the importance of economic growth. And it was only Herman Cain who actually mentioned economic growth in this debate tonight. And when you get right down to it, America's strength is the strength of our economy. This is an economy that, when it has to, can grow in incredible spurts. When we reorganized out of the Great Depression and got ready for World War II, we grew at 8%, 17%, 18% per year in real terms. And if we did that, we'd have all the resources we need for national security, for our entitlement and social programs. We'd be right back on track. And I think what we're going to see is a lot more discussion of growth going forward.
Colonel Wilkerson, if the trigger actually goes into effect, that is the result of the super committee not coming to an agreement, and we see these rather sudden defense cuts in a sizable amount, the likes of which we haven't seen in any time recently, what do you think the effect will be on our military preparedness?
I think we can handle it. You remember I served with Chairman Powell when he was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and we essentially cut the defense force by about 25% at the end of the Cold War. I think we can handle it. I think there are places where defenses could be cut. But I go back to what General Clark said and what I said in my initial answer. I don't see a plan to do that right now, and the failure of the super committee and the failure of the Congress in general indicates to me that we're not making much progress on this. This is the real problem we've got right now. And I'll also say that I agree with General Clark about the way we grew post-World War II, but you look at the GDP post-World War II, it was about 70% manufacturing and about 20% services. It's 76% services now and much less manufacturing, somewhere around 12 to 15%. We've got to restore that. We've got to start making things again that people in the world want to buy, whether they're high-tech, low-tech, or middle-tech, I don't care. We've got to restore this economy if we want to have a powerful, professional, and ready-to-go military. So it can be cut, but we need to look at the bigger problem, and the bigger problem is restoring the economy on which our national security power is based.
And General Clark, quickly before we go, your reaction to Rick
spending.
Go ahead, Go ahead.
It doesn't necessarily mean more government spending in the economy. It means setting the conditions so that the money that corporations and Wall Street have on hand can be productively invested in things like energy and infrastructure, airports, schools, all the things we desperately need in this country right now. We can get those going.
General Wesley Clark and Colonel Larry Wilkerson, thank you both very much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.